This is the scroll saw. Some people call them Hegner saws or fret saws. We're going to call it the scroll saw during this project. The saw is easily turned on and off using the buttons at the top. By lifting the cover, you will see a green button. When pressed, will start the saw. To stop it, lift the cover and press the red button. Alternatively, you don't need to lift the cover, just press the large red button on the front and that will stop the saw. When the saw is moving, the blade moves up and down. Here you can see it in slow motion. The guard is used to protect the user from the blade and the mechanism at the top. This must always be at the front and can be adjusted if required. Before starting to use the saw, it is important that you've checked to see if the blade is okay and that the surface of the table is clear of any dust or offcuts. Here are two pieces of MDF that have been cut into a penguin and into a robot's head. I've used these two pieces as examples of how to use the saw. The first point to remember when using the scroll saw is that it is not a race. It is not the first person to finish is the best. It's ensuring that we use the saw accurately, carefully and safely. The first piece of advice when using the saw is always cut on the outside of the line. We can always sand down later to the edge of the line, but we can't add wood back to the pieces once it's being cut off. Look how my fingers are never directly in front of the blade. They're to the side or behind it or well in front. The only way you can put your finger with the blade is if you put your finger onto the blade. If you get to a tricky bit, like I have here at the end of the body and the beginning of the head, and I'm not quite sure how to tackle this the best, I often turn and cut off the piece I've just cut, leaving me a fresh piece to cut into. You do not have to cut out your animal all in one go. To cut on the scroll saws, you gently need to push the MDF into the blade and allow it to cut through the material. If you are in control, if your fingers are on top of the piece of material, it shouldn't move around. However, if you are not in control and are scared and hold the edges, this can happen. If you lose your grip on the material and it starts to jump around when you are cutting, keep calm and simply turn the machine off. Regain control of the material, turn the machine on and continue to cut. Cutting a circle or an arc is tricky business. You have to gently push forwards and twist at the same time. The slower you do this, the better the outcome will be. The blades are very delicate. If you get stuck, ask for help, but please do not try to pull the piece of MDF back round through the cut. This will pull the blade, which can damage the blade and lead to it snapping. To summarize using the scroll saw, gently push the MDF into the blade, keeping your fingers on top of the material but never directly in front of the blade. Allow the saw blade to cut through the MDF and always cut on the outside of the line. After using the scroll saw and the workshop in general, please help us by getting the dustpan and brush and tidying up, throwing any scraps of MDF into the waste wood bin near the bandsaw. Health and safety is a crucial part of design and technology. When you're doing any practical work, your hair must be tied back and in a bobble. Sleeves must be rolled up. An apron must be worn. Blazers must not be worn. Bags need to go under tables and chairs also. Only one person is allowed to use the saw at any one time. Please make sure you give them enough space and stand well back. Finally, goggles must be worn. If you see this sign on one of the saws, please do not use it. There is probably a fault or a broken blade. If the plug is not removed from the socket already, please do so. You will see that not all the saws are the same. They all do the same job, but they look slightly different. Please make yourself aware with where the on and off switches are on these machines before using them.